Hey guys, welcome back to the Turbo V6 YouTube channel. Sick week was awesome. I'm glad I'm home though. It's time to start dealing with the issues that I had with the truck on sick week. Didn't really have any major issues, but actually on the drive home, I had probably the biggest issue that I could have had on sick week, but I'm glad it didn't happen until I was pretty much a couple hours from home. And that issue was my cooling fan. I pulled over to get gas at the last stop and I realized that the cooling fan wasn't running. And I came over to the connector for the radiator fan. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. If not, I'll add a picture or two. But yeah, the connector is melted. I tried to get it apart and it wasn't coming apart very easily. And yeah, I saw this goop that was basically shiny and liquid looking. I've only been running it since like summer or so maybe it just wasn't enough, so I might have to upgrade that to a higher current capacity connector. If I'm sitting in traffic or whatnot, I definitely saw the coolant temp start to rise. Didn't have any issues because it was like 25 degrees out where I noticed that the cooling fan stopped working. So it was fine whenever I was moving. It was really cold whenever I got home, so I didn't have a chance to hose it down, but now I'm going to unload everything, pull the truck out, and hose it off. I have a set of spark plugs. I have a new set of spark plug wires. And another thing is I have my borescope out. And the reason I have the borescope is I want to take a look at what condition this stock motor is in. I've put it through a lot. You know, I've driven it like 7,000 miles on 2 drag and drive events over the past year. Really over the past like 6 months. I did drag week in September, and then in February we just completed sick week.
Smash that like button. Hit that bell.
And I drove the truck to both events, so that's a lot of miles. And I haven't even checked the spark plugs. I think I checked one spark plug on drag week, but other than that I haven't touched it. So we'll pull those plugs out, see what kind of condition they're in, and yeah, we'll give it a new set of spark plug wires. And while we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and try and clean up this engine bay. It is extremely dirty from driving all the way back from Florida when it was snowing and, you know, there was salt all over the ground. So I'm going to try and pull everything out of here, try and polish everything up, clean everything off. All right, well, I got things about as cleaned up as I can. Inner fenders are just kind of not in great condition paint wise, so they don't look great, but everything else turned out pretty good. Cleans up nice. Got the manifold all cleaned up. This is the fan connector that wound up melting on me, so it's yeah, in pretty bad condition, and it smells horrific. I got a new connector that I think is rated up to like 45 amps or 50 amps. We'll pull these plugs out and take a look at them. Okay, well, I didn't want to bore you guys with pulling the plugs out, so I just got them out. I also made this little 3D printed spark plug holder, so I know which spark plug came from which cylinder. So They don't look bad. They're not burned or anything. They are blackened. I was driving all the way home on, you know, regular pump gas. So they don't look great. It was just basically a bunch of low speed driving and whatnot. Okay, so pulled out the borescope. Here's cylinder number 1. Just looking in here, trying to get an idea of what's going on. You can see there's a little bit of scuffing on the cylinder walls. It's a little wet. I'm not really sure if that's just from being really rich. But we'll jump in cylinder number 3. It's drier. It doesn't look like it's really, you know, anywhere near as shiny. It's kind of dull, which is, in my eyes, a little bit better. But still, you know, on the edges, it's still a little bit damp looking. Kind of thinking now that that's probably fuel, unburned fuel, because I pulled the truck in when it was cold and didn't let it get up to temp. But yeah, there's cylinder number 5. So this one was actually the one that wound up having the issue with the head gasket before I swapped over to the MLS style head gaskets. But again, it looks fine. There's no broken ringlands that is, you know, that you can see. And then jumping over to the other side, this is cylinder number 2. So kind of a mixture of, oh, it's a little bit, you know, on the edges of the piston. You can see it's damp. Still not sure if that's oil or not, but I'm not positive. And then we get in cylinder number 4. This one's way down there, and I think I get a close-up of the bore on this one. But yeah, again, it's just a little bit, you know, damp or you know, shiny from partially burnt fuel, carbon on the piston. I was running the whole way home from Florida, so like multiple thousands of miles on 87 pump gas. So yeah, you can see the bore, the top of the bore right there. Got some carbon buildup, and it's scuffed a little bit, but you can still see cross-hatching even within that. And then there's cylinder 5. You can see the valves open a little bit, or this is cylinder 6, not 5. But yeah, everything looks fine. Nothing major. No broken ringlands. So that's a good sign. We'll just keep pushing it. So started tearing off this connector that melted for the fan, and man, is this stuff like the worst smelling thing in the world. I've never had a connector melt like this, but you can see it looks like the hottest part was right where the, you know, female and male pins come in contact. So I'm really thinking that this was a limitation of that, you know, size connector, and it just wasn't enough, because I have it on a 30 amp fuse, which is, you know, probably too much based on that connector only being rated to 30 amps. But this connector that I'm going to be putting on is rated to 45 amps. So yeah, hopefully that will handle this, you know, super high CFM fan, because that fan I have to keep, because it made a world of difference keeping this thing cool. You know, there's so much heat from the turbo kit under the hood, and I can really only fit one fan on the radiator. I'd have to go with like 2 like 10 or 12 inch fans. So one 16 inch fan is just like so much better. It puts out, I think, like 3,000 CFM almost. So I'm gonna cut those old pins off, get these new pins crimped on, and we'll be having a working radiator fan again. So the next thing I'm going to jump into is pulling the oil cooler adapter off of the block, because that's where I was getting my oil leak during sick week, right between where the line's attached to the radiator. And I really just don't think I need it anymore, so I'm just going to delete that whole cooler circuit and just basically put the filter right onto the block. I think it'll do just fine. So it seems like a lot of people delete these from S10s. I think a lot of them actually leak at the hoses. I bought these hoses from AutoZone probably about 5 years ago. Albeit I don't put that many miles in the truck. 7,000 miles. They've lasted. They haven't really had any issues whatsoever. And they haven't leaked from, you know, the hard connection to the soft line. And yeah, I was doing all right. And then it started leaking from basically where the adapter goes into the radiator. I'm pretty sure that's where it's leaking. It's hard to tell. It was on the bottom one. But I thought about going back and maybe welding AN bungs and making AN lines. And then I'd just weld some AN bungs on here and get rid of these, you know, kind of factory, you know, lines, and I could just run soft lines. But I don't really think it's that beneficial to having an oil cooler on a truck that doesn't get any, you know, crazy road racing or anything. I'm just driving it on the street pretty mellow, or I'm taking it to the drag strip and running a 1/4 mile at a time. So now I need to steal the adapter off of my spare block so that I'll be able to have a threaded portion for the oil filter to screw on. I'm not sure if this is the same part as the one that came on the spare motor that I have, but the that motor didn't come with an oil cooler, I don't think, which is kind of surprising because it came out of a, you know, a 1500 half-ton pickup truck, you know, Silverado. So I think that's kind of weird that, you know, that one didn't come with an oil cooler and this one did come with an oil cooler, but whatever. And then we can clean up some of the oil on the truck and jump on to the next thing. Okay, so we got the oil cooler all off and I have the oil filter back on. That's pretty much that. The next thing is spark plug wires. So that's kind of the point of this video. It took me a while to get here, but finally here. So I actually picked up spark plug wires for a small block Chevy V8, a Vortec V8. So it still has a, you know, a Vortec distributor cap, which is basically exactly like the Vortec V6 distributor cap, only obviously there's 2 spark plugs that are missing. These are actually cheaper than the V6 ones. These spark plugs have been on this truck since I bought it. So probably going on 6 years now. And I haven't really had any issues. But then again, I never really checked them. So on sick week, I discovered that one was severely misfiring. Cylinder number 1. And this is what I found on that cylinder. And you couldn't really see this because it was covered by these heat protectant boots. So this one was actually resting on the exhaust manifold. So you can see it's all discolored. So really I'm going to try and make sure that there's an air gap around all the plug wires. This kit actually comes with some wire separators. So that's nice. And yeah, so I have no idea how long these spark plug wires have been bad, but it may be a big upgrade. Even though these are just kind of off-the-shelf spark plug wire, and these are, you know, a bigger MSD spark plug wire. So I'm not too worried about it. If it becomes a problem, we'll look into the ignition system. Still need to figure out how I want to mount the coils when I go back to the LS individual coils. I'm not happy with the way that the coils are sitting in the engine bay, so I'm just going to hold off on doing that. And we'll just keep going with the distributor for now. I just got done putting the spark plug wires on. They fit, they're not perfect, and basically I'm not happy with it. The lengths wound up being not perfect, and while it is functional, it just doesn't look the greatest. I actually bought a crimper for my interchangeable wire crimpers. I just bought it off Amazon. It works pretty good, so I might as well add to the set. Specifically made for crimping spark plug wires, and I got some Taylor spark plug wire ends 90-degree style. So I'll be able to cut the spark plug wires a little bit shorter, crimp on these new ends, and have nice perfect lengths for my new spark plug wires. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. Okay, yeah, so for this spark plug wire, I'm going to cut 3 inches off, pop the boot off, Now I'll cut the end off. And then that should, yep, that slides right off. They really just wrapped this around and left enough that it would grab onto the crimp. Right around there. And I'll grab my new terminal, try and line it up, and stick that guy in there. Send it home. Nice. Now this boot might be a little hard to get back on, but I have some grease to put that in there if it doesn't want to go. And there we go. All lined back up. I can put this wire back in. I think they turned out pretty good. A lot cleaner now that the lengths are all the same. And yeah, it was actually pretty easy. I think I only had to cut 4 wires shorter, so no big deal. And I still have the 2 spares for from basically the V8. So now I'll have backups and I can, you know, cut them to length and make them for any of these wires because I kept the 2 longest ones. So yeah, now we'll find out how these spark plug wires do to compared to the old MSD wires that, you know, these are 7 millimeters. Those were 8 millimeter wires, but you know, those definitely were no good. I was having obvious misfires. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. We'll see you later.